Welcome to Hunt Harvest Health podcast with your host, Ryan Lampers, aka the Stealthy Hunter.
Howdy.
And myself, Dr. Hillary Lampers, where we share our love for ancestral living and the health topics of the modern age. Ryan is the well-rounded bearded brawn of Hunt Harvest Health. His knowledge of backcountry adventure, western hunting, and our household status as garden guru and super dad really defines our gut stealthy lifestyle.
Doc Hillary is definitely the brains and beauty behind all of this. She kind of makes everything happen, as I have zero technical skills. Hill is just a wealth of knowledge in all things medicine and nutrition, which not only keep our family healthy, but they help me stay strong in all my mountain adventures.
You can follow us at huntharvesthealth.com, Instagram, and Facebook for more podcasts, recipes, and stories.
All right, let's do this. I feel like hunting is getting a little too easy with all this good light gear. And now we've got great food. There's no, the suffrage is going away. Thinking back to where we were 20 years ago with our gear and the food, we used to pack canned food in the mountains. We used to pack Spam in the mountains for crying out loud.
I remember cans of food going
now
in your
eat
backpack.
chili and Denny Moore stew, all that stuff. And we would come out wiped out.
I think you showed up home a few sick times too from eating canned stew up there.
Yeah, too many days of canned food in the mountains is not good. So we are very fortunate today to have some great companies out there. Heather's Choice is one of them. She's creating some good meals. Off-Grid Food, who's kind of a local around here in Washington. He's a great guy. He's creating some great meals as well, some snacky type food, some breakfast meals. And now we've got another company coming out called Humble Foods. And we've had opportunity to try it, and it is really good. Not only is it really good, it's got super, super good ingredients in it. It's all sourced, high quality, organic, everything, top to bottom. So today's guest is Jordan Reisner. He is one of the men behind Humble Foods. So we had, a great conversation talking about it, talking about where it started, how it started, why it started. And we get to learn about Humble Foods while we smack down on a bag. Great conversation. So I think hopefully people like this podcast with Jordan.
Yeah, you can find this on our website, of course. And we now have a YouTube channel. So check it out and look for Stealthy Hunter. You can also watch this podcast on video.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about poop. It'll be good.
There you go. That's always a hot topic.
I just got that on audio. I love it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about poop. You know what? Lots of people like to talk about their poop.
We build a gut health company and people start sending you poop selfies.
Oh, no.
Saying, what's wrong with this? That's when it gets weird.
That's crossing the line.
Wow.
Have you got any poop selfies, babe? Yeah. No.
Do not send me poop selfies, people. No, there's lab techs that do that stuff. I don't even with patients deal with that. I give them a kit to go home and play with it themselves, and it goes to a lab tech. I don't see it.
That's so funny.
Okay, so we are sitting here with Jordan Reisner in Bozeman, Montana at his home. And if you're watching the video, you can see that we're in his, what room do you call this? Is this your
gear room / gym?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And
it's incredible. It's like one of the best workout rooms I've seen. He's got everything in here. So yeah. I love it.
Yeah, Ryan's been working on the rings here for a while.
No, I haven't.
Rings are intimidating, man. I see people doing rings and it looks so easy, and then you try to do it and you realize how horrible your core strength is because it's so much work to do rings and stuff.
Fun.
Oh, that's cool. So yeah, we're sitting here and we are also holding bags of his new freeze-dried,
food.
Backcountry foods called Humble Foods, right? And we're going to be talking about that a little bit. So, Jordan, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You're
This is
welcome.
so fun. I'm
Thanks
glad
for
we
having
finally.
us.
This is. I'm glad we finally turned the recording on. You guys have been here for a few hours. We've been
I
just
know.
chit chatting,
I
having
know,
fun
right?
all day already.
There's always a time when we kind of just run into people and we finally realize, why aren't we recording this?
Well, it's
We've already
kind of
had a
weird
2-hour
to be like,
conversation.
"Hi, I just met you. Put this headset on."
Yeah.
Which you really should do. I should just walk in the door and be like, "Hi, here's your headset. Put it on," because you have so many good conversations with the headphones not on.
Yeah,
It's
for
like,
sure.
"Oh, why didn't we get that on?"
Yeah.
So it's definitely more authentic to just put them on right away.
And
But-
then put them on and then eat really loudly in them.
Yes,
Right?
and we're going to be doing some of that today.
Yeah, this is almost torturous. We got headsets on, but I really want to dig into this garlic zucchini beef right now. So I don't know how that's going to translate through the mic, but there may
Good.
be some lip smacking going on
It
here in a
might be.
minute.
Yeah. So, okay, Jordan, explain to us, give us a little bit of background on yourself and what is Humble Foods?
Oh yeah, good question. Yeah, so I was diagnosed with celiac disease about 12 years ago now, and I was very, very sick. I was having diarrhea like 15 times a day, malnourished, exhausted, could hardly get out of bed. And when they finally figured out what it was, I thought that was a real blessing. Like, okay, I know what this thing is. I know what I'm dealing with. That means I have a path forward. And I'm an engineer, a mechanical engineer, so originally trained. So it was like, okay, now I know how to solve my problem. I know what my problem is, right? And I went gluten-free, but I didn't get any better. And as you know in your work, there's so much complexity to the gut. And healing a gut that's ravaged by celiac disease is just a longer process than pulling gluten out. And eventually, I found a obscure diet called the specific carbohydrate diet. It's for people with really banged up guts, like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's and celiac, and that diet is sort of paleo-ish, pulls all sugars and grains out, and it's just based on like really healthy meats and fats and fruits and vegetables that are easy to digest. And I just started eating that, and finally my diarrhea stopped in like 7 days on this diet. And I started to heal, which was great. And ever since then, I've been eating a paleo type diet. And because I have celiac disease, I can't ever cheat, right? So it's kind of like a really cool catch-22. I'm kind of forced to choose to be super healthy. And the other edge of that sword is just that I'm really sensitive to stuff outside of what I eat on a daily basis. And hunting has always been my biggest passion in life. I've been hunting since I was a little kid. I'm a 4th generation bow hunter. I grew up hunting in the Midwest, mostly whitetails, and always bow hunting. It's just archery at heart. And it was a dream come true to move out to Montana 5 years ago and to start hunting elk and muleys and just be able to go in the mountains. And there's many layers to that, because 12 years ago, doctors were telling me like, hey, look, you're going to be dealing with this for the rest of your life. You're not going to be able to do things other people can do. And at that time, things like go hiking in the mountains for 7 days, where I've put on, let's say, 50, 60 miles. Those were things they told me I wouldn't be able to do.
No kidding.
Just because I had this thing, this disease. And over the period of healing, I started to do a lot more things that they told me I'd never be able to do. Things like Spartan races, things like hunting the backcountry. And one of the important parts of that was my fuel. And I moved out here and started to meet people, and they were like, you got to just get this mountain house stuff. And I'm like, oh, what is that? I'm like, oh, it's like astronaut food. You just put water in it. And I'm like, what? Because in the Midwest, we just weren't exposed. When we would hunt, we'd hunt the tree stand until lunch. We'd maybe bring a lunch, a sandwich or whatever. And
no long-term 7-day trips deep into any mountains.
Right. And go home for dinner once it got dark. So it was this, what is this stuff? This freeze-dried food. It was like the mysterious thing. And I went to REI, I remember, and I was looking at the back of like, oh, can't eat that one. Can't eat that one. Can't eat that one. What's Backpacker's Pantry? I can't eat that. Can't eat that. Like looking at every label, and I couldn't eat any of it. And so the first couple of years I hunted, all I ate was like dried meat bars. Like Epic Bar had just come out at the time.
Yep.
Their early stuff was really terrible, but I ate it anyway because it was all I could eat. And then eventually I started to make my own backcountry paleo meals because there just wasn't any out there. I just needed paleo. Just needed the same technology, but paleo.
Right.
And I started making my own stuff, and a lot of my friends were liking it. And my business partner, Steve, who I've known since we were 18 years old and met in engineering school, we started a lot of companies together, and he's a big backcountry guy too now. And we were like, we have to start a food company. There's got to be more people like us who, and when we're traveling to conferences, when we're on road trips, when I drove all night to get to Colorado to go on a hunt with him, I needed things to eat in the car. I needed things to eat in airports. I have a family. When I'm traveling with my kids, I don't want to eat airport food with them. I don't want to put that in their bodies.
It's hard. Traveling's hard, especially when you have celiac or food allergies.
Totally, right?
It's almost impossible.
And so it was like, okay, we have to figure out a way to make paleo backcountry food that is really nourishing, that's higher calorie, that has fat in it, all these various things that I was kind of doing on my own, and my own tinkering, my own engineering, in my own kitchen, and so we did. We created Humble Foods, and it's the brand was really born out of just a reverence for the outdoors and a reverence for the everyday guy and girl who just appreciate the life cycle of where food comes from,
Mm-hmm.
and what it takes to have this food end up in this bag, and we sought out to use only the best quality organic ingredients, and that also didn't exist on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really just built what we wanted. We engineered what we wanted, and we're happy to have it finally come out and be born into the world.
Well, I'm sitting here looking at ingredients. It's just so simple. In this one, I have garlic, zucchini, beef, organic coconut oil, sweet potatoes, carrots, zucchini, celery, minced garlic, sea salt. Like, where's all the stuff?
There's all those words that you just can't quite pronounce.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like making a meal at home, right? And eating it without all the stuff in it. That's cool.
And
That's
you're
great.
actually holding one of the very first versions that has grass-fed beef in it.
Ooh.
Yeah. This is something that has been needed in our world, our backcountry world. I think as of late, there's been a lot of, push for eating cleaner while you're in the backcountry, while you're on a hunt. I think, as a lot of us have progressed into spending more time in the mountains, 1 week, 2 weeks, you've come to realize you have to eat clean. You can't just eat clean the rest of the year and then go to your hunt and then expect to feel good after 10 days from eating a mountain house or something that just doesn't quite sit right, or just way too much sugar, way too many carbs, things that you wouldn't typically eat back home. You start doing that and you come away from that trip just feeling like garbage. I know I used to eat pretty darn clean at home, but then you were almost forced to, unless you created your own food, go into the hills and just pick up whatever and just deal with, junk processed foods. And, I lived on the mountain houses and the backpackers. I was a backpackers pantry guy. I used those for a long time. I never had any ill effects on taking them, but I never felt great at the end of the trip coming out. I like the flavor and all that, but this is kind of like taking it to the next level, because you've gone to pretty much all organic everything. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
So we got, now it's not just the vegetables, it's the meat, it's the chicken, it's going to be the beef. And what I've also noticed is you guys are adding packs of coconut oil to it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Now put that thing right up by your mouth.
Yeah.
While I'm chewing.
Well, and the reason I ask is because we've been doing that. We've been talking about adding healthy fats to our diet while we're back in the mountains, and we do it back home. Why not do it up there? So we eat a lot of like avocado oil and coconut oil and extra virgin olive oil back home, and there are so many calories wrapped up into small packs of olive oil or coconut oil. So you guys adding it, it's not just healthy, it's jacking up the calorie count as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that was part of just me trying to make what I wanted ideally. As an engineer, that's what I'm always trying to do, is like, what do I really want? And when I'm in the backcountry,
You gotta move it closer.
look closer.
That's okay. Yep. There you go.
So when I'm in the backcountry, in studying nutrition, when you're eating a paleo type diet and everything's really clean, I mean, one of the staples of that is getting most of your macros from fat calories.
Right.
And healthy sources of fat. So fattier cuts of meat, avocados, avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil. And for me in the backcountry, I need fat calories. And I'm a hard gainer. I'm a skinny dude. And so for me, my biggest challenge during September is not losing too much weight.
Right.
And if I don't get enough calories, especially fat calories, when I'm in the backcountry, I come back and I'm like a shell of myself.
Skeletor, right?
Skeletor, right?
Yeah.
And totally. And so for me, adding in the fat calories is so important. And I was building these 1,000-calorie meals because it was so hard for me to get 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day in the backcountry. I was building these 1,000-calorie meals with 2 tablespoons of coconut oil in there, which is hundreds of calories, and that just helped me feel so much better. I had new energy that I didn't have the year before.
Right.
To go more miles, to go chase that bugle I heard over the ridge that last year I would have been like, I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough tank to go after that bugle.
And that's got to be the worst feeling. I've had experiences like that in my early years where you want it so bad and you've planned this whole thing and this is your one time and you don't have it in the tank. And most of that was due to either you didn't prep yourself physically or the diet you've been eating for the last week. So yeah, it's huge.
This has 49% fat in it. Percent of calories, daily value, 49% of your daily value.
And that's the thing,
And it tastes so good. You can taste the fat.
Can you?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, see, in all honesty, Jordan had sent me some of the bags to try, and I hoarded them for myself. So this is the first time that Hill's actually got to test the food. I told her about how good it was, but I never did give her, a spoonful of mine. I was keeping it. I was very selfish.
I am used to Ryan's dehydrated food, which is he only usually makes a few recipes, like a rice dish, a spaghetti, and a chili, and you can only eat that stuff so much times where you're like, ugh, I think also the freeze dried versus dehydrated, I feel like there's maybe a little bit of a difference, and maybe just how fast it rehydrated or something.
Well, maybe, I'm sure Jordan could probably talk about, the differences. A lot of people have questions. I get that all the time. Is dehydrated as good for you? Do you lose some of the nutrient value, or is freeze-dried, better for you? What's the cost ratio? Obviously, freeze-dried takes a whole lot more investment in equipment if you're going to try to freeze-dry your own food, whereas dehydrators are pretty dang cheap, super easy. But can you go into that maybe a little bit as far as the differences?
Yeah, when I first started playing with this, the first thing I did was buy a dehydrator from Walmart, right? Just one of those circular ones, whatever the brand is, and started dehydrating my own bison and elk and whatever else I had around the house. Muley deer meat. And what I found is that once I started buying freeze-dried ingredients and making my meals with freeze-dried ingredients versus dehydrated, I found personally that I liked the taste of freeze-dried better, and it rehydrated better for me. Now, once we started to explore actually starting a company and looking at studies, generally speaking, you're going to be able to remove more moisture in the freeze-drying process. The freeze-drying process is really complicated. They have these extraordinary machines that cost millions of dollars, and they create a vacuum, and it's just this, you need German engineers to come run these things, right?
Right.
It's insane. And there's not that many companies in the United States that freeze dry. It's a very rare commodity versus anybody with a commercial kitchen can do commercial dehydrating.
Right.
So when we were looking at starting Humble Foods and starting to make these meals, we had to choose, like, are we going to be a dehydrated company or are we going to be a freeze-dried company? And that was a tough choice because Steve and I are both engineers, and we're both like, it has to be perfect. We have to make the best choice. And there was a huge barrier there because, one, there's not a lot of companies out there that you can source freeze-dried ingredients from. And then two, there's even smaller companies out there who are making organic freeze-dried ingredients that we can source. And so it was almost like this impossible task. And at the end of the day, though, general rule is that with freeze drying, it pulls out more moisture than dehydrating. So it will rehydrate better. It's going to be lighter, slightly lighter.
I think the general rule for rehydrating any food, it takes about twice as long to rehydrate a dehydrated food versus a freeze-dried.
Yes.
That's what I found.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then it's going to be slightly lighter because there's a little bit less. It's very, very minuscule, though. But if you're the type of person that cuts your toothbrush in half and all that stuff, you might care.
Sure.
And then some studies suggest that it does retain more of the nutrient profile freeze drying does versus dehydrating because it's just a different process. And then I personally believe after a lot of testing and just eating a lot of different ingredients that I think it tastes better. I think freeze dried has more flavor than a dehydrated, sweet potato.
This tastes really good. It does taste different. Maybe it has to do with the extra fat, or maybe it has to do, like you had said earlier, you noticed a huge difference when you were able to source the grass-fed beef versus the not grass-fed beef and the all-organic ingredients. You noticed an actual taste difference.
Oh, it's night and day.
Yeah.
The organic chicken is just it tastes like you're eating a real meal on a plate, which I never had that experience with any of the other conventional beef and conventional chicken products. And there would always be like ones that really didn't hydrate and it felt like you're biting into a rock. And, there's just the mouth feel, they call it. The experience of the organic has been incredible to be able to go there and choose that and figure that out and get the supply chain done. Because, that's the thing is, we made 900 bags of Humble Foods last fall in September, and they weren't for sale. We didn't have USDA approval yet, but we sent them out to all the influencers, people like Aaron Snyder and Remy Warren and Corey Jacobson. And we had people like, hey, will you test these and just let us know if they're terrible or if they're good? And if they're terrible, that's okay. Let us know what you didn't like about them and we'll make the recipes better. And we started with dinners. So we had 6 dinners. Because I don't know about you guys, but in the backcountry, right now, I don't eat a hot breakfast, especially during archery season.
Right.
The only thing I eat hot is dinner at the end of the day in my tent. So
same.
That's where we started. And we sent them all out. And that was like part organic, part conventional, just whatever we could find at the moment to make the recipes. And we got great feedback from everybody. We got some tweaks we wanted to make. And we've spent the next 6 months trying to find organic and grass-fed beef, for example, and they didn't exist. There was no freeze-dried organic chicken. There was no grass-fed beef that existed in the marketplace. So we had to go source it. We had to find the farm, and then there's minimums, right? Like you end up having to buy like 10,000 pounds of this stuff. And then they have to ship that to the kitchen where the kitchen processes it, puts it into the little 3/8-inch cubes, and then they send it to the freeze drying facility where they freeze dry the stuff. And so Humble Foods will be the only place that has freeze dried grass fed beef and freeze dried organic chicken. And so now we've been able to source all the little puzzle pieces to finally put together a fully, organic meal. And to your point earlier, backcountry hunters, in my opinion, we're elite athletes in many ways. And
absolutely,
I would have a hard time to have anybody dispute that. I don't know many endurance athletes who are out there for 5, 7, 10 days putting on 70, 80 miles, tens of thousands of feet of elevation gain and loss, no sleep, because who sleeps great at elevation, right?
I do. Sorry. I do. I don't have any issues with that, but everybody I talk to does.
I'm going to have to get some sleep tips from you.
Oh, man.
I do not sleep well in the backcountry.
I've been blessed with that gift. Yeah. But yeah, it's true. I think, there's not a whole lot of things out there that put you through the ringer like a backcountry hunt. Mm-hmm. And we all know, food is of utmost importance. It's the fuel that gets us there, and it gets us back, and it keeps us going. So, for those of us now, you hear all the time that argument about, hunters don't have to be athletes. You don't have to be super fit. You don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to. But there's a lot of us that want to do it in a different way. We want to get back further. We want to be able to have extended trips, and we don't want to feel like garbage when it's all over. We want to look at it as a great experience, and not have any walls put up, from us going wherever we want to go. We just want to be able to, any opportunity that's laid out, we want to be able to get there. And so, being in shape and eating right, it just kind of goes hand in hand. And so that's what's cool about this stuff is I feel like it's exactly what Hill and I would be eating at home. The exact same thing. It's all organic. It's grass fed. Mm-hmm. We know that by looking at the ingredient list on the back, and it's real simple. So that's super cool. I think it's definitely going to take. I think there's a lot of people that are going to glom onto this and really love that, because we all talk about knowing what's in our food, and we do at home, and there's always been that little question mark. And man, for some of us guys that don't just hunt for 1 week out of the year, we hunt for 3 months out of the year, maybe not combined, but that's a lot of days in the field eating. If we're eating a mountain house, I don't know where that meat came from. I don't know, none of it's organic. That's going to catch up to you. So, and I, just through experience, I know what certain foods make me feel like after an extended stay. So, like I've mentioned before, I've built my own. I've tried this stuff. This stuff is like, I fed it when I first got some. I gave it to my daughters, and they were eating it, and it's like just something you would eat every day. It's like a stew you just made.
I would take these to work and eat these, because I'm not like an endurance backcountry athlete by any means, but I can work an 8, 10, 12-hour day sometimes, and I don't get time to actually sit down and eat a meal. Or my lunch hour gets eaten up with emails and sitting with the office manager and doing stuff. And sometimes if I don't make all my food and take it to work, and then I got to heat it up, and then I got to wait, I sometimes just won't eat. I don't have time. It'll sit in the fridge and I may not eat. Like this, I could heat up.
Yeah.
I could eat in like minutes. It's compact, easy, and it tastes so good that I would, some of the other foods, I would never be like, oh, let me choose a dehydrated food to take to work and eat, like Ryan's stuff I would, but it takes a while. Maybe I wouldn't take the time to heat it up. This seems like it just was really quick, and it's so good. So I think that this is an option for people that have busy lives too. And like you said,
the traveling aspect, it's always been like one of the biggest, people always talk about the food when you're traveling. We talk about it all the time.
We walk around airports sometimes, just like
what can we eat?
What are we going to eat here?
Do we have to settle and eat that?
If we didn't go and bring all our food in, we end up like, okay, well, it's the donut shop, or it's Starbucks, which I know we're not going to,
and for sure.
It's, the taco place or McDonald's. Like, okay, we're just not going to eat. Like we'll, get. So that's what I'm saying. Like this is so awesome.
So obviously, this is going to be a huge benefit in the backcountry for us guys that care and want to feel good at the end of the trip and the year, but also, the traveling aspect of it.
It's pretty filling though. Like I haven't even eaten. I don't know how much of this I've eaten. Not probably half of it, and I'm like feeling full. So it's a lot of calories. This one is 660 calories per bag. Or per serving. How many servings are in here? Per bag. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, yeah.
So how many different recipes have you guys kind of come up with at this point?
Yeah, we're starting with 6.
Yeah.
And we have a good long-term vision of where Humble Foods is headed. And we'd like to have various other products down the line. But we wanted to start with 6 recipes because, usually I do 4 7-day hunts every fall. I'm fortunate to just have been blessed with a digital company that affords me some time off in the fall to be able to pursue my passion. So because of that blessing, I've been able to usually do like 7 days back, come out for 7 days, and just kind of alternate 7 on, 7 off. And so I was like, man, we need at least 6 or 7 recipes for me.
Right.
So it's all very like selfish, but that's the logic behind it. Is we wanted to have a good diverse mix for folks who are going out on an extended trip, so they have diversity, and they can kind of switch it up.
I've noticed you guys have been pretty creative too. I had one of the meals, it was like a apple cider something or other.
Mm-hmm. Apple cider
chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was looking at the ingredient list, and you guys had some like fruits in there. I think you had some bananas and stuff like that. And I was like, man, really? How do you get that into a dinner meal? And I ate it, and it was delicious. It was super good. Now my daughter didn't like that one because it had bananas in it, and she's just not a banana lover. But it was really, really good, and it was unique, and it was a recipe I've never even thought of, making myself. But yeah.
Is it still just dinners that you have?
Yeah,
okay.
For right now. We'll definitely explore breakfast, bars.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have a lot of stuff that we play with, I imagine, over the next few years. But we just wanted to start with a stable company that we wanted to really focus on one thing and do it right first. And so we spent the last, basically 9 months just trying to get 6 dinners right, which seems small to me at first, but it turned out to be a lot of work to get 6 dinners right.
Yeah.
A lot of testing. Steve is actually just this mastermind with recipes and ingredients, and he's got a genius for that, and he'll be in the kitchen like, and just, what happens if I do this and this? And what happens if I put this in there? And he's got kind of a unique knack for that.
Mm-hmm.
But we have done all this ourselves. It's not like we, hired some food scientists to make it. It's just we've tried to make food that we actually, like you said, we actually make at home.
Mm-hmm.
If I eat, let's say elk steaks, and I make broccoli, like garlic broccoli with olive oil and some black pepper seasoning, some Italian seasoning on the elk's back straps. I mean, that's the type of meal I'm trying to translate into a bag that tastes good. And I don't, and that's the thing too. There's a lot of other great companies coming out, which is so fun.
Yeah.
And there's Heather's Choice and Off Grid, and when I first saw Heather's Choice come out, I thought that was the coolest thing. I was so excited, but my palate and my stomach, I don't really tolerate very exotic recipes. Mm-hmm. And so Heather's just wasn't a good fit for me personally. Right. And I'm sure it's amazing food, and I know there's people who love it, but and Heather seems like an amazing human being too, which is great.
She is, yeah.
And so I have nothing but great things to say about her, other than my stomach's just too sensitive to really exotic foods.
Spicy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I've got that a lot. Some people really love the Heather's Choice, but some of it is a little bit too much as far as spice and whatnot. So works for some and doesn't work for others.
And that's when we were like, well, what are we going to have for our 6 dinners? Well, let's focus on food we actually eat on a Tuesday evening and try to translate that. And Mountain House and Backpackers Pantry have done the old standard American diet versions of all that, right? Mac and cheese and chili and all those things.
Cheesecake.
And I don't eat that stuff.
Right.
So it was just trying to figure out what is a base staple paleo type meal. What am I actually? Well, I'm actually making zucchini. I'm actually making broccoli. I'm actually making carrots. I'm actually using elk or chicken or these types of seasonings are actual seasonings. I'm using ginger, garlic, just the basics, cilantro.
Yeah.
And that's what we built our recipes with.
And I think one of the knocks on, it used to be, is when we used to, you get into this health food kick and you start eating super clean and healthy, people would always say, but there's no flavor to it. There's no taste to it. And that is not the case. I mean, there's so many ways to spice up a meal. And this is something, at the end of the day, like you mentioned, I'm the same way. I'll eat just a cold oatmeal / I got a bunch of stuff in it for my breakfast. And then I'll do bars and things that I've made and whatnot during the day. But the hot meal comes at the end of the day. And that's that meal you look forward to at the end of the day. It's something to look forward to. If you got a campfire, awesome. And a good meal and something that tastes really, really good. Versus going back at the end of the day and I got to just eat this to get something in my gut to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. There's certain things that you just look forward to, and this is definitely probably one of those. I love a hot meal at the end of the day, and if it tastes good, that's a huge bonus. So
when are these out? Can people buy them?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. They're coming. So we just redid all of our recipes with our grass-fed beef and organic chicken and the new organic sweet potato that we procured, which is really exciting. And we are finalizing our USDA approval.
Okay.
Right now we're sitting in my house in February of 2018. And we have to go through the USDA approval process, which is anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks. And then we'll be doing likely a pre-sale. So if anybody wants to make sure they're part of the pre-sale, they just need to make sure they're on our email list or following us on Instagram. If you go to eathumble.com, that's our domain name, and you can get on a waiting list for that.
Okay.
Or follow us at Eat Humble on Instagram, and that's where you can make sure that you're on the waiting list. And we're really excited. If it were up to us, we would have been launched already. But
yeah, these things don't happen overnight.
I know it's a long process, especially going the route that you guys have with the organic and the clean and all that, the grass-fed. That's good.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah. So hopefully by this fall, us hunters will have something to look forward to.
Oh, for sure.
A new food company that's completely clean and delicious, and hopefully at that, what usually it starts about August. It's when my hunting season starts, is about August. So hopefully it's out by then.
Yeah.
Is this the packaging too that you're gonna have?
We may tweak it. Mm-hmm. That's the test bag. So we had to put the USDA hide sticker over everything that said gluten-free, corn-free, soy-free, dairy-free. We had to hide that for right now because it wasn't approved. But this is a very close position to where our branding. We're playing with some other bag designs because we're engineers and we're constantly tinkering. But I do really love this bag.
It's beautiful. It's real simple. Yeah, it's inviting for sure. So cool. Well, anything else we need to know about this? Besides it's awesome and I want to dig in and eat the whole bag.
I know. I need to carry it with me everywhere.
I really appreciated you sharing that you'd eat it, at work. I think that's something that was really important to us, is trying to figure out, hey, I'm a busy mom. I've got 2 kids. We got home a little late, picked them up from aftercare, and I don't have time to eat. What am I going to eat? It would be really awesome if this was that good, because everything tastes great on the mountains after you just hike 12 miles.
Right.
Like anything hot tastes amazing.
Sure.
So I think the true test for me on whether or not we've succeeded is if that busy mom will eat this on a Tuesday night.
Yeah. Well, my kids, maybe not my little one right now because she's still a little picky, but our older one would definitely, she ate. She just didn't like the one with bananas because she doesn't like bananas. I try to hide bananas. She knows it's in there no matter what I put it in. So we don't feed her bananas. Smart. But she would completely eat this. And I would be 100% comfortable. We're on a road trip right now. We should be giving these to our kids instead of stopping and getting food.
Absolutely.
And she would love this. She would completely eat these.
Oh yeah, I'll reiterate that. Everything tastes good in the mountains. Except on day 7 if you've been eating the same chili or spaghetti that you made. But yeah, I think I would just eat this any given day. You know? And
for sure.
It's awfully simple. So
yeah,
and that's what we did. With some of the test bags that I ate, we just ate them on a lazy Saturday at home, and it was so good. I loved it.
Yeah, so I don't think you'll have any problem with that.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely this freeze-dried food is not just for taking when you're going on these backpacking trips or hunting or whatever. I mean, they're great, easy, convenient. Everybody's in convenience these days. They're an easy, convenient way to get really nutritious food in. And yours there's nothing in it but food.
Yeah, I really like,
which is so cool.
I'm not very smart, but I really like when I can read the ingredients and not have to ask my wife what that word is. So it's pretty cool.
One other question, and you may not want to share this yet, but kind of what is the price point per dinner?
We're not sure.
Do you have that yet?
It's going to depend a lot on what the final price it costs for us to make them.
Yeah.
And the reason we're figuring that out still is because the procurement of these organic ingredients has been insane. The fact that we had to go buy, 10,000 pounds of grass-fed beef and get it shipped and manufactured ourselves, that's been an arduous process. And so we're still figuring out our price.
Right.
We're trying to position it as almost like farm to table. And it truly is, as you guys know, I mean, it's as close to farm to table, but we're kind of spinning it into farm to anywhere. Farm to anywhere. So farm to the backcountry, farm to the PTO meeting, whatever it might be. And we're going to try to price it as reasonably as we can. But the commitment to organic has been expensive for us. So we're gonna do our best, and this is all going to depend on where the manufacturing costs end up, so that we can have a not-for-profit. We're not going to be a not-for-profit company, so we have to figure that out.
Well, you figure if you even take your family out to dinner, just a family of 4 eating not even that great of food, you could easily spend $50.
Oh, for sure.
Easily. And that's like
low end.
That's low end, right? So one of these bags could feed both my kids, like a meal, easily. So Paley can eat all that by herself. She probably could, but we could split one bag between kids, and I probably eat half a bag. And so that's, even the price point with that.
Bag. There's no stopping it once I get started on a bag.
That's like really, I think, no matter what it is, even that, you figure, even if you're taking food on the road and you're doing that, or you're going camping, that's way cheaper than what it costs. Oh, even to go to the grocery store. You can't get out of the grocery store these days for less than $100, it seems like. So, and how many meals do you really get out of that $100 is always my question. Sometimes, But
I think just trying to cut all those little areas out where you don't get to eat like you eat at home. That's where this comes in handy. It's nice. Now we're able to eat good, clean stuff in the backcountry and feel better. When you're traveling, wherever, we're kind of getting rid of all those little areas where you have to eat junk.
When you start eating good, clean food, though, you're willing to pay the extra price. That's how I've always felt. Years ago, when Ryan was not really into like the food thing, okay?
I fought her on it tooth and nail.
I was the nutrition, I had a nutrition degree. I was always into health because I had health issues in my teens from eating bad food. And so I learned early on that food was super important. And I like to shop, maybe it was just a thing. Like I go to Whole Foods, or I go to PCC in Seattle, or I'd go to these places. Yeah, now I realize they have stores now that have that stuff. It used to be you couldn't go to Fred Meyer and buy organic food, right? So you had to go to the co-op, or you had to go to a Whole Foods. Well, now we have way more options in regular grocery stores, even Safeway. You can go to Safeway and buy stuff that you couldn't buy before. So I'm a little cheaper now because I have kids and stuff. But I have always been like, one time he went and he saw the grocery bill and he was like, "You're spending that much money on groceries? What are you doing?" And I said to him, "Do you complain when you eat it? Do you complain when you're healthy? Do you complain?" He's like, "No." And I said, "Listen, I don't spend my money on clothes. I don't spend my money on alcohol. I don't spend my money on half the things other women, nice shoes and purses and all these things. I spend my money on healthy food. And I'm not going to change because you don't like the price point. That's just what I spend my money on." And then he was like, he never made a comment after that.
What came of that is me
he was
pushing her to eat more of what's in my garden, and more canned food. Just go grab some stuff off the shelf. Trying to avoid having to spend that kind of money when you could just grow it yourself or just take out.
But I think that gardening came
freezer.
out of seeing what it actually costs to buy healthy food, right? Like, so you can grow some of these things. That costs money and time too, but once you get good at it, right? But I'm always like, I will literally, if you give me a choice and you put 2 things side by side and you say, this one's organic, this one doesn't have the fillers and the stuff, but it's $5 more than this one, I will always take the one that's $5 more. It's just my personality. It's like, I know that it's going to be in the long term better for me. I don't think like that. Now, if you said it's $100 more, I might be like, well, I don't know if that smoothie's worth $100 more. But, there's this small price point where I will always pay the more expensive price because I know the benefit of that. And I think healthy consumers, they realize that. And they know, too, how much good energy are you getting out of this bag of food versus a Mountain House. So you saved $3-4 or whatever it is by getting the more expensive one. The amount of energy, clean energy you're going to get out of this bag of food and not wake up with like a food hangover and all the salt and all the stuff and all the allergens. Let's go backcountry riding and spend the whole day having diarrhea. That sounds like a lot of fun, right? Like, I just see like people realize that, and especially today's consumer, because we have so many choices now. It used to be Mountain House was it. Like that was your choice. That's what you eat. And now there's so many choices and people are healthier and they don't want that. So I always say, like, when people say the price thing, I say, listen, it's really worth it. It's completely worth it. And like you said, if you want it cheap, things are going to be cheap. You're not going to get good meat. You're not going to get clean vegetables. It's going to be cheap. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe I don't want that.
And it goes back to your why. Like, why gardening, why investing. Either way, you're trying to put healthy food in your body to feel better. Right. And so, like, when we built Humble Foods, we put together the top 3 things that would help all of our decision making. Like, what are the 3 most important things to us? Number 1 was quality ingredients. Number 2 was the taste. And then number 3 was how you feel after you consume the meal. And that matters a lot. And it's a joke in the backcountry between guys, right? A lot of us, you'll hear stories of people eating Mountain House or Backpacker's Pantry, and then you stink out the guy out of the tent that you're sleeping next to because your gas is so bad. And it's kind of a joke that maybe the extra sodium content makes you feel like you just ate a brick.
Yeah, or your joints are all swollen up and you're inflamed.
Your knee hurts and you just feel like crap. And it's sort of a running joke that if you eat this stuff, you're just going to have to put up with feeling bad, but there's no other options. And that's just not true anymore, which is exciting. But you do have to invest more to feel better.
Yeah.
But the whole adage of hunters saying, well, I like knowing where my meat came from, right? And then you translate that into the gardening space. I like to know where the rest of the plate came from, which is something you said earlier, which I love. But why do we sacrifice that for the 6 days that we're out there trying to get that meat?
Which is when you need it the most.
Exactly.
I mean, you're an endurance athlete. It's like, so you're going to eat really clean the rest of the year. And then when you're actually doing your sport and you're actually working like that and you're sweating and you're losing all those calories and you're getting dehydrated, you're going to eat a bunch of junk. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. When you need the rocket fuel the most, it's usually on a backcountry hunt, typically. So.
Yeah, and the hunters, I agree. If you're hunting for that clean meat, for that organic quote unquote meat, you should be eating food that follows that, your mentality with that. You know, I think that you kind of need to walk your talk, and feeding yourself translates that you care about yourself, feeding yourself well, taking care of yourself, being healthy, exercising, hunting, whatever it is, you're translating to other people that you actually are, walking your talk instead of like, oh, I eat garbage, but I promote this lifestyle that really is promoting health, and again, that's the market that's been coming up, I think, for a while now, like guys like you and this whole backcountry explosion of people wanting to learn more about Western hunting and backcountry hunting and all this kind of stuff. It's just part of that movement of people wanting to know more about where their food comes from and doing it in a way where you're actually pushing yourself. You're experiencing that, aliveness. So
cool.
Eat the good food.
Yeah. And what's cool about this stuff is, this is a podcast. We're focusing this on your company, Humble. And it's cool for us because we love supporting people who are actually changing things for the better. So it's not too hard to support such a cool company that's got, kind of the things that we talk about all the time is clean eating and all that. So this is cool that we're able to sit down with you here and just.
I'm buying a box just for my car.
Yeah.
So when my kids are screaming that they're hungry, I'm like,
yeah.
Shh, here's my boiled water. Here you go. Be quiet. No, really, seriously, it's awesome.
Yeah. And I don't think Hill would even take some of the food that I've made, like the dehydrated stuff in the past. I have not seen her taking that to work.
I've done the spaghetti. I've done the spaghetti, but
must not be as delicious as this Humble.
But we do a lot of spaghetti because we have lots of homemade tomato sauce at the end of the garden season, right? We have a whole other fridge that's full of canned tomato sauce. So sometimes it just kind of gets like, and then my kids always want to have that too for dinner. And so it's like, but yeah.
So cool. Well, we appreciate you coming out with this. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So hopefully it helps a lot of people. Hopefully a lot of guys can take advantage of this fall.
Humble Foods.
Thanks for having me. I'm just grateful you guys came over and hung out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay. So till next time. Thanks, Jordan.